Pain before glory? This study of ancient Greek history is agonizing. It's not the story of Mesopotamia or Egypt, where flooding rivers delivered a flood of success for those early civilizations. Studied in previous lessons, Greece is not a story like that. Quite literally, it is a struggle. But without them overcoming these struggles, the world would be very different. And this is the introductory history lesson to kick off ancient Greece. I'm excited to be able to share this with you. It is showing you pain before glory. So welcome to Classical Kingdoms, where timeless stories reveal truth and wisdom for your journey. And this is a highlight to kick off the importance of the Greeks. We'll start off with the Greek word agon. That's the real pressure, the real struggle and how they embraced it. Then, what comes out of that? The Greek word arete, the excellence as a virtue, the results of overcoming those struggles. And third, we will preview so many of these inventions and contributions to Western civilization in the entire world, just to kick off a very exciting and interesting study of the ancient Greeks. So thank you for joining me so that you can understand how Greek life was tough, it was creative, it focused on the growth, and that's a story that belongs to all of us. It belongs to you. You've been in tough situations. You've overcome struggle. And by the end of this episode, you'll be excited. You'll be thinking, like, what kind of excellence will you create as you overcome? So let's start. Let's go back 4,000 years to the very earliest Greeks. And in that first 1,000 years, they don't show a lot of results, not a lot of points on the board, as they say. But after that, it is truly something extraordinary. So, how do you feel about this pain before glory? Like, we sometimes avoid the pain. And what is that early pain that we see that the Greeks are dealing with? Because they don't start strong. Well, let's look at their geography. We always look at geography, ancient civilizations, city-states. We want to know, what is the land like? And there's agonizing facts about this land. They have some struggles. This is not a flooding river civilization. They have rivers, but it's not the way Mesopotamian Egypt had flooding rivers that brought nutritious soil, just a lot of fertile land, and an abundant agriculture. In Greece, we're going to talk about mountains a lot, very rocky terrain. Take a look. The jaggedy, rocky terrain is not going to be real fertile land. It's also not going to be easy for travel on that land. You're going to have to kind of carve in and out of these mountains. Communication's going to be difficult. The development of these people in their city-states is going to be very different than other civilizations. They're going to develop more independently. So one of the earliest is the Mycenaeans. We'll study more. They helped start the Athenians. The Spartans were one of the originals. The Corinthians. Take a look at some of the land. I've visited these places. It's really exciting to visit. And even just driving, you have to weave in and out of these mountains. When they were developing independent governments. And that's one of the inventions that the Greeks will be famous for. They did develop strong governments, strong kingdoms, and they did have farmland. So there is agriculture that's going to happen here. The mountainous terrain doesn't mean no farming. It just means it's not that easy flooding success farming that you see in the river civilizations. So where there was fertile land, they could enjoy the benefit of the climate. Greece's climate being on coast of water, when the water is to your west, when weather moves, climate moves from west to east, that's going to keep the climate perfect for a lot of growing conditions. And you see this all over the world. In Greece, sunny, warm weather is going to help things. But what kind of crops are really going to grow in such a rocky terrain? What do we have to do in this terrain to make a successful life? Well, if you look at the scene of the Mycenaeans and look around, you'll start to get an idea of what they're going to do, because you can see some of those silvery green trees. They're beautiful. They are olive trees. And you're going to see the rocky terrain and how these olive trees can deal with it. They overcome the struggle of the terrain because olive trees favor conditions like this. And notice also the way the Mycenaeans are building their citadel, their fortress. And look at Corinth also, similar kind of layout. They have these fortresses, these citadels, the Acropolis, the high city portion that's easy to defend. So you'll visit some of these places someday. You'll feel the sun. You'll see the olive trees. It's really an exciting and beautiful place. Not far away from any of these places is water. The sea, the Aegean Sea, the coastline, the Mediterranean Sea. It's saltwater, so we can't just use it for farming. And there's not an abundance of rain and water here. So what will we do? If you were an ancient Greek, what would you do with all this water in the sea and the coastline? So actually, let me give you, before you answer that, the coastline, the islands, it is so extensive. You probably already know the answer, that this geography is going to encourage people to learn how to sail, seafaring people. And this is one of the reasons why we studied the Greeks in depth, is because they did sail all over the place, all over the Mediterranean Sea and great distances, and they're going to trade. Trade is a huge. Now, what are they trading? If they're overcoming the struggle and they're learning how to sail, what was the main crop or main product, main commodity that they're going to be able to trade? I'll tell you that in just a minute. But could I just give you a little bit of comparison so that you see how valuable this coastline is? If Greece's total coastline is 8,500 miles, how does that compare to Egypt? Egypt can connect to the Red Sea, can connect to the Mediterranean Sea, but it's going to only have 1,500 miles of coastline to transport goods and commodities. So that's significantly less. So let's think, what advantage do you have when you have 8,500 miles of coastline? And the Mesopotamians, remember the Tigris, Euphrates rivers and the Nile too, were perfect for transportation up and down the rivers. But Mesopotamia did not have much coastline to the Persian Gulf. So they're going to have to rely on just what they could travel with on the rivers and then land trade routes after that. So I think I've given you some clues. You really want to use all that coastline to have lots of different ports, seaports for seafaring. And they say necessity is the mother of invention. That is actually a Greek saying. And this lesson does connect to a lot of inventions. By the end of it, I'll share with you a huge amount that may surprise you with some of the things that they came up with. Necessity is the mother of invention. So if you are going to be a seafaring trade specialist, right? You need some good commodities, obviously. But before that, you need good ships with quality sails and a way to navigate. The Greeks invented and innovated all of these things. So one of the big inventions is the astrolabe, right? Where they could measure the stars as you're sailing around, use the stars to understand your position, as they were forced to adapt and to make the most out of their situation and take advantage of this massive coastline, knowing that their rocky terrain is more difficult for most agriculture. The Greeks did overcome this struggle, and they were very successful traders. Now, what are they trading? You already saw a little bit of it in the picture, and I mentioned it, the silvery green trees, which are everywhere in Greece. When you're driving around, taking a lot of trips with students, official school trips with their parents as well. And we would travel around these places and we would just be amazed at the beauty, because it's not a scene that's common in the United States. There's not many places that would grow olive trees. Olive trees. Olive what? What is the product? Are they going to trade olives? You know, a lot of people don't like olives. They're, kind of bitter. And by the way, if you just pick one off a tree, which I've tried to do, it's like a hard stone. In order to eat olives, they have to be processed. They have to be cured. They have to be prepared. So the big thing with olives is to press out the oil. And the last time I went to Greece and picked up this can of oil, it even tells you and shows you where the oil is from, and it is from Sparta. And it tells you the quality of it, that the acidity is low, 0.3. So this is a very special oil from Sparta in the Peloponnese in the Peloponnesian Peninsula. So looking at a map, and we need to learn that word, Peloponnesian Peninsula, and where Sparta is located. And it's an excellent region for growing olive oil. And they're one of the earliest people. So you could taste that oil and you could say, yeah, that is pretty much the best olive oil. But there are other places where there are early Greeks who also benefited from olives and olive oil trade. So let's go down to the island of Crete. We'll study the Minoans. The Minoans on Crete. And this olive oil is from Heraklion, where they say their olive oil is the best. And it is exported. It's still something that we trade. But back then, olives are used for food. Their oil was used for cooking. It is a fuel. You could use it in lamps. It is lotion, right? Cosmetics, soaps. It's useful for a lot of things, including religious rituals. Olives are incredibly important. And the fact that olive trees thrive in these conditions, olive trees can live to be thousands of years old. Some of these olive oil trees may have come from, it is possible 4,000 years ago, the same olive trees are still around today. They are very special. And because of how beneficial olive oil was to the ancient Greeks, it's really become kind of a special symbol of peace and prosperity and victory. And with its religious significance, you would receive an olive wreath when you overcame the struggle of a contest. You know, that word agon, the Greek word agon, is literally a word that means contest. It would be like if you were in one of those boxing matches. The Greeks invented boxing, they invented wrestling and discus throwing. These are agons, these are contests. And you would win an olive wreath for your head if you overcame one of those struggles in a contest. What do you win when you do well in a sporting event, in a 4-H event, if you've raised ducks in 4-H at the end? What do you win? What do you earn? Is it as good as a wreath of olive leaves? And even if you go to Athens today, you know that there's a mythological story about Athena presenting the olive tree to Athens and how special it was. And you'll hear more details about that. So trade is huge. Olive oil is huge. And I find it super interesting. So if you go to classicalkingdoms.com, that's where this course is enriched. There are many more opportunities. So I do have a free deep dive research paper about trade and the olive trade and so many others from this ancient time period, and comparing it throughout many stages of Mediterranean trade. So don't miss out on some of these opportunities like that deep research paper, or just check out the other ways that this lesson and the entire course is presented at classicalkingdoms.com. Also, please click the like button to support this channel and the algorithm to reach more people with free lessons in ancient history. Thank you. So even if you don't like olives, click the like button, because the Greeks like olives and they've liked them now for thousands of years, because it's one of the reasons why they have a strong economy, that they have a strong diet, excellent trade, and it impacts their culture. The Minoans, where I picked up this olive oil, were from the island of Crete and had their own unique struggles. A lot of seismic activity is going on in this volcanic region of the Aegean Sea. So here's a whole nother set of struggles, of agony, that is going to affect the development of these civilizations. And so you'll find out more about volcanoes and earthquakes as we dig into the Minoans. And on the mainland, the Mycenaeans, you saw the fortress or the citadel of the original Mycenaean civilization there, which was very important and very strong in this first 1,000-year period. And then you will learn about the struggle of what's happening, with the Trojan War in the Iliad and the Odyssey, how the Trojan War involves a lot of Greeks to go and fight. And it could be about trade that they're fighting. It could be about the struggle in relationships. Overcoming that struggle it's a part of Greek history as well. So at this point, I just want you to think of something that relates, something that is agonizing, that you've had a difficult challenge, something that's painful, but in the perseverance, You overcame and you became stronger. That is really what we're learning, that overcoming and persevering is going to deliver a better result, a stronger result. Would you put that in the chat? Share something. I think we'll have a lot of interest in seeing what people put. Now, athletics was kind of already mentioned, which is definitely a popular concept of, hard work and perseverance as you practice your sport and train for the contest, for the Agon. It's game day. It's the event, the meet, the match. So leave that in your chat because Agon means contest. And we know that the Greeks invented the Olympics. That's one of the inventions, the Olympics. And they're really part of the Pan-Hellenic Games. Every year there would be some type of game in various locations, and every 4 years they were at Olympia. So you may not have a sports connection, and maybe you've got more relationship. Like, do you always get along with everybody, or are there struggles with some of those relationships? But when you make up, when you get over those struggles, is that relationship better? Which does kind of remind me about the second Greek word in a story. The second Greek word we're going to talk about was arete, excellence. Do you see actual excellence that's coming out after you overcome the struggles? Well, it reminds me of the story of Hermes and Apollo. Do you think it would be difficult to steal 50 cows from your brother? Would you steal 50 cows from your brother? If you did, could anything good possibly come out of that? Hermes and Apollo. On the day that Hermes was born, he was a mischievous, kind of clever kid. He snuck out of his crib and started to explore, and he saw that his brother's 50 cows were right there. And he was going to steal the 50 cows. Now, that's quite a struggle to steal 50 cows. So how would you do that? Necessity is the mother of invention. So what does Hermes do? He's a newborn baby, options are limited. So he takes the bark from a tree and he makes 200 shoes for all the cows. And then he teaches the cows to walk backwards so that the tracks are going to look like, footprints going the other way. It's going to really throw off Apollo from understanding what's going on when he sees that his cows are missing. So when Hermes gets done stealing the cows, and then he sees a tortoise, and he kills the tortoise and takes the guts and stretches them out and lets them kind of dry. And when they dry across that tortoise, he plucks them, and it's making musical sounds. So this is actually a very challenging day, a busy day for young Hermes. So he goes to bed. And then Apollo finds out that his cows are missing. And so he searches east and west, and he asks everybody what is going on. And he uses some of his, Apollo's a Greek god. Hermes is about to be. Hermes actually sacrificed a couple of those cows, including sacrificing to himself, to the Olympian gods plus himself, kind of equalizing that he made himself into one of these gods. And Apollo is one of the star gods. He's so popular, everybody likes Apollo. So he uses some of his divine power to hunt down the culprit. And when he finds out that the cave where Hermes was sleeping was a place where people had heard new musical sounds, right? This was a new type of sound. When you pluck strings across a tortoise shell, this is a new sound. Apollo is supposed to be the god of music, right? He doesn't know about this. He needs to go figure it out. And when he gets to the cave and he sees Hermes, it's his brother because they share the same dad. It's Zeus. Apollo accuses Hermes and says, "Where are my cows? You're acting really suspicious, little brother. I want you to tell me." And Hermes is like, "What are you talking about? I'm like a little baby. How could I steal cows? Like, what do you?" And he's like, "You're lying. We're going to go see dad." He grabs him, flies up to Mount Olympus and tells Zeus, it's like, "Dad, you got to fix this. My brother's stealing my cows." And Hermes is like, "What? I'm a little baby. What are you talking about?" Well, finally he comes clean and he says, "Okay, all right, you got me. I did steal your cows. Let me go take you to the cows." And so when Apollo and Hermes, and he gives back the 48 cows now, and Apollo's like, "Why are there only 48? Well, I sacrificed 2 of them to the Olympian gods, of which now I'm one of them. He's the 12th Olympian god." And Apollo's like, "Okay, little brother, that's a bit much, but you're in big trouble for stealing my cows. And what are you going to do about that?" Hermes says, "I'm going to give you this musical instrument that I made from the tortoise and the dried guts, and I stretch them across and makes these beautiful sounds. And I'm going to give it to you. And since you're the god of music, this is Apollo's lyre. Did you know what that instrument was? Apollo's lyre is now known to be his instrument. And with Apollo being the god of music, this all happens because of the little baby. Now, he still wanted an instrument, so he does make the pan flute from this. And so we've got the pan flute, we've got Apollo's lyre. And in their reconciliation, because Apollo accepts it, the sounds of music are beautiful. And this is the invention of new musical sounds. And the two brothers made up. So now, not only is necessity the mother of invention, and we've got new things, we've also got an understanding of relationships. And that is part of the struggle that the Greeks, and it means that Hermes and Apollo are teaching us more than just how to invent music or how to overcome struggle and make excellence. Arete, this becomes part of the culture to also apply it to relationships. Have you thought of a time where you would just rather choose comfort and ease and just skip over all this struggle? Have you thought of a time where you just wanted to avoid the pain and you didn't think about the glory? Pain before glory, it's like, no, I want to just avoid the pain. Well, in this last segment, we're going to take you to a place that Apollo was favored. He was the god of Delphi. And it's a place where you can understand what it is. It's more than a musical instrument getting invented. It's more than brothers learning to get along. It's understanding life. How do you understand all of this? Apollo would say, go to Delphi. The Greek city-states had some special places, and this Delphi goes so far back in time, and Apollo was the god who has a special temple there. And it's a special place where people go to try to understand all of this. And the big famous saying that you would see in Delphi is know yourself. Know yourself. You've got to understand yourself. Do you avoid pain? Do you avoid struggle? Well, you need to know when that is. And you need to know that if you're seeking glory, then you gotta confront the struggles, take them head on, the way we see in so many situations that end up with excellence, that end up with arete. So Delphi is a really special place. It's beautiful up there. And these special places called oracles would be a way for you to try to understand life. And really understanding all about the Greek story and all the inventions that they provided, it helps us understand the world today. Number one on the list of inventions that help us understand our world, democracy, a form of government. If you overcome the idea that power to the people and citizens would vote, you may get a better result in your government. What else was invented besides democracy and musical instruments and so on? The list goes on and on with sundials and crossbows and flamethrowers and pontoon bridges and siege towers, anchors and cranes, pistons and pulleys, the stadium, globes and odometers and parchment and prisms, scale maps, thermometers and sirens, syringes, boxing, discus throw, gymnastics, javelin throws, and the Olympics. How about some dice? How about the games? They invented kid games, dice, spinning tops, wooden tops, the yo-yo. Necessity is the mother of invention. And if kids want to play, they would invent dice, spinning tops, and yo-yos. Does excellence ever feel too hard? Or could you end up with dice, spinning tops, and yo-yos? Or better yet, democracy, freedom, self-government. The Greeks had their hard moments, but by overcoming, they have helped improve the entire world. They have given us a journey to happiness, the pursuit of happiness, to human flourishing. And this is also your personal journey with your relationships and your own personal goals for Agon, overcoming the struggle and excellence, the arete. And you can be inspired by some of these stories that help understand life, like what Apollo and Hermes went through. But you'll see the pain, and you'll know from this lesson that the Greeks did not run away from that struggle. Back to a question, what excellence could come from you? Are you excited to produce something? And did you share something in the chat that relates? I think we could have a lot of fun reading through these things. But we know you're not just here to learn about history, you're really here to live it. And like the Greeks, you face challenges. And so you do have the choice, escaping, avoiding it. But ultimately, you get excited with the idea of excellence and what kind of excellence you could create. Thank you for taking the time to learn something that mattered. I hope the story didn't just reveal the past. I hope it revealed a piece of yourself, some classical truth for your journey, because kingdoms rise and fall and power fades, but virtue endures.